Almost exactly 5 years ago, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, a little-known archbishop and cardinal from Argentina, was chosen as the man who would lead the world's 1.2 billion Catholics. From the moment Pope Francis stepped out to greet an adoring public for the first time, he signaled that his papacy would be different from that of his predecessor, Pope Benedict. Even the new pope's chosen name, in honor of St. Francis of Assisi, pointed to a new direction for the Church, a renewed focus on humility and on the poor. For many Catholics around the world, Francis, the first ever pope from the Americas and the first non-European pope in 1,300 years, represented a breath of fresh air. Francis's media-friendly persona seemed ready-made for TV, and his off-the-cuff comments to reporters during his travels made headlines around the world. But even in the early days of his papacy, Francis raised concerns among conservative Catholics. And now, 5 years on, those concerns have evolved into deep fears and fierce criticism. According to the critics, Francis' policies are challenging Catholic doctrine itself and leading to a widening of the divisions within the Church, potentially to the point of schism or formal breakup. New York Times columnist Ross Douthat, who converted to Catholicism as a teenager, is one of those critics. And in his new book, To Change the Church, Pope Francis and the Future of Catholicism, he presents a penetrating look at the Francis papacy and at the controversy surrounding the People's Pope. He joins us now. Ross, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Ross, you know, in the book you argue that Francis is not only a liberal, but a radical pope. But,
potentially.
But he was elected in a conclave that was made up almost entirely of conservatives, handpicked almost exclusively by the conservative Pope John Paul II and Benedict XVI. So how did this happen?
Well, nobody's quite sure, right? I mean, part of the fascination, and it really is a fascinating story, is that I think the cardinals had no idea what they were getting. At most, you know, there were a few cardinals sort of on the more liberal end of the spectrum who had campaigned for him and I think had some idea that he would be a reformer and a liberalizer. But for the most part, he was elected on the theory that he would be a kind of cleanup artist for a Vatican that was seen as basically a sort of broken bureaucracy. Under Benedict XVI. He was a sort of austere figure. He had, you know, a reputation for being sort of scandal-proof and, as we've seen, sort of, you know, humble, in touch with the poor and so on. And he was an outsider to Italy and Rome. And to conservatives, he had a past, especially in the 1970s, of feuding with more liberal members of his own Jesuit order that sort of reassured conservatives. So he was seen as sort of center-right, probably, within the Church, and as someone who was there to sort of clean up the mess in Rome. And instead, he's become something else, something much more dramatic, I think, than just a kind of bureaucratic reorganizer. You have to remember, too, that in Argentina, while he was, you know, he was austere and incorrupt and a friend of the poor, Bergoglio was also not a charismatic, telegenic figure. He was seen as a doctrinal conservative who, you know, sort of clashed with the more liberal Argentine president, and he didn't give interviews.
It's amazing.
Right? He had sort of a reputation as a sourpuss. And it's a great study in how the elevation to this global office can affect a pretty radical, at least public transformation.
So let's talk about, when did it become evident that Francis was indeed a radical or was heading in a radical direction?
I mean, I think that basically the particular question where Francis chose to sort of push for change, this question of communion for remarried Catholics, divorced and remarried Catholics who haven't received an annulment, basically saying that their first marriage was invalid. This was something that he brought up occasionally from the beginning of his pontificate, and then he very explicitly sort of maneuvered into these things called synods, basically, where a group of bishops get together in Rome. There were 2 synods on the family, where the bishops were supposed to discuss the many challenges to family life in the modern Church. And through his appointments and sort of behind-the-scenes action and so on, Francis made it clear that he wanted those synods to basically open communion to the remarried, which is a radical move in sort of immediate terms because it places Francis in a kind of pretty overt contradiction with things that his immediate predecessors have said. And of course, the thing about popes is that they are absolute monarchs in certain ways, right? It's the last absolute monarchy, but they're supposed to be bound intensely by past teachings, and these are teachings that Benedict XVI and John Paul II had reaffirmed. But then it's also a case where the question of second marriages and so on, more than other issues like same-sex marriage or contraception and so on, it actually does go all the way back to the New Testament itself, right? Jesus doesn't say anything about birth control. He doesn't say anything about
homosexuality.
Gay people. Yeah. He does very explicitly make a statement about the indissolubility of marriage that shocks the people around him when he says it. And Catholicism has basically tried to sort of, through the annulment process, to accommodate itself to the modern realities that, you know, we all live with. My parents and grandparents are both divorced. I'm, you know, a child of this culture as much as anyone. So it's tried to make those accommodations while also holding a line and saying, absent this kind of annulment, you can't take communion. And by pushing for that change, Francis has pushed the church into a real kind of theological crisis where cardinals are fighting with cardinals and theologians with theologians. And it's you know, it seems like a small issue, but from the point of view of the long-run future of the church, it's actually quite a big deal.
But you know, a lot of people who are not conservative Catholics look at this and they say, look, the Eastern Orthodox Church has allowed remarried to go to communion, and they believe that Christ is in the host, in the real presence, just like the Roman Catholics do, and they've survived. So what is the big deal?
I mean, it's not a question exactly of survival, right? I mean, there's going to be something called the Catholic Church going forward, no matter what. It's more a question of integrity and consistency. The Eastern Orthodox don't have a papacy. They don't have the view of papal authority that Catholicism has, and one of the advertisements for that view has been precisely that it maintains a continuity of doctrine that even churches like Orthodoxy, that are in many ways very conservative, Catholics would say have lost a little bit on these particular points. I mean, Catholicism is the only major Christian communion, Protestant, Orthodox, and so on, that still maintains this idea that if the first marriage isn't valid, the second marriage is impossible. And that's, you know, part of the distinctives of Catholicism. These things like, you know, the idea of transubstantiation, the idea that the Eucharist, the bread and wine, literally becomes the body and blood of Christ, and so on. They're now considered conservative ideas, right? So I'm a conservative Catholic, but in fact, what the church is preserving is a kind of radicalism. It's the radicalism around marriage and so on. And that's why, in that sense, we'll say Francis is a radical pope, but in fact, what he's doing oddly is sort of bringing the church in line with sort of upper middle class bourgeois Western morality, right?
Well, we'll see what happens, Ross.
We will.
The book is To Change the Church, Pope Francis and the Future Catholicism is a fascinating book. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.